What is up, guys, and welcome back to Two Beers Deep show. This week, as you can see on our social channels, we took a step away from traditional Two Beers Deep method. Reason being, with I believe it's the strike right now in the NBA and everything going on in today's society, we wanted to actually give a platform to certain individuals that we know we've connected with before, guys that love the show, and guys, brains that we just want to poke and appreciate and can bring light into the situation of what it means to not be white in America. Because as you can tell from the traditional show, Josh, Greg, and I are white in America, and in a time like this, for the three of us to just sit here and discuss it felt shallow and it felt hollow. So I wanted to use what little platform we have on Thoughts of the Bench to be able to bring light to people's situations and stories and understandings, and to try to get through certain things together, and to prove that there are people out there that can, try to learn about the situation the best we can. Greg's here, Josh is here, and then let me know when you have the sixth camera up, Josh, and I'll
Almost,
introduce. You're
almost.
good.
We got
You're
a
good.
last second ad here right at the
We'll
buzzer.
bring everybody in,
So
then I'll give you guys a little intro, and we'll have people jumping in throughout the night. One of them is one of our bloggers, Dre, will be here around 7. Another friend here at 6:30. Some guys later on, just pumping it out. But for the most part, the reason for tonight was just we sometimes don't know what to do, and we don't know what to say, and we don't know how to showcase that we want to be, a bigger part of this than we have been in the past, or maybe than we planned on being. So we have people here today that I thoroughly enjoy, and thank you guys all for jumping on. Go ahead, Josh, and flip over. We'll just start with Mars. Has been on the show a few times, Pittsburgh rapper, very good friend of mine and very close friend group. Mars Jackson, thank you for being on. I love you, buddy, and appreciate you being here. Natty, is a longtime viewer of Thoughts on the Bench and Two Beers Deep. Natty might be, aside from my parents, the longest running fan we've had.
I think he's an OG fan, actually.
Yeah, very much an OG fan. Natty, first time on camera. You've called into the show before, but it's good seeing your face again, brother, and I appreciate you for being here. And then Adam, basically the beer god of Pittsburgh at this point, but Adam is a friend of mine just through, my in the creative community in Pittsburgh, and Adam's a brain that I love seeing you out. I always have a smile on my face when you do end up coming out, Adam, and I really enjoy your perspective on things. So thank you for being here, and all three of you guys, thank you so much for sitting down with us and being a part of this. So I don't necessarily know how to jump into it and get started, but I did have a phone call, Mars, with you this morning, which you did end up tearing up through, and it's one of these things where us as people, everyone says leave the politics or whatever it is out of sports. I just want to start off baseline, guys. What happened yesterday, Mars, with the Bucks and the types of strikes going on in this? From your perspective as a sports fan and everything going on, what were your instant reactions when you see athletes of this magnitude saying, we're not playing until it's changed?
And I think it was a beautiful thing. I think that in all my years of watching sports and witnessing, different changes and things. And, it started out with, Melo, LeBron, CP3, just standing up there and telling, people about, social injustice. And then like for them to be like kind of the homies that like just showed the way and what people wanted to say, just to see like, guys and people under them, like taking initiative to like not follow suit, but be leaders themselves, just teaching people how to be leaders and using your voice. And, like seeing that yesterday probably inspired the whole sports community, but just in general, like a fan of sports and watching something like that, it was like, for me, it was just like, wow, like that's history. Like this is history being seen, for when I get older. And, if I have children, I could tell them like, look how them brothers like stood up, the whole squad, like everybody on the squad, so I commend them. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I love the trickle down effect, how it just went from not just the Bucks, Orlando couldn't play, and then it was like the Clippers and the Lakers, just saying like we're not playing and so forth. Like all the teams that was like, we don't want to play right now because like I understand they feel like they're taken away from what's happening in the world, and it's like the more eyes and coverage that we get on what's happening in the world, the better. And also on the flip side, like I just think, even up to this point, they did a good job at using their voices after the game as well, before and after. Anytime they talked about or was interviewed, they brung up, everything that's going on right now.
Yeah, and just to say, Adam and Natty, I want this to be as open as possible. So I'm not going to be completely hosting the whole time. Feel free to jump in and out any way you guys would like to be on. Thank you again for just being here. But feel free to have this just be a discussion. People will be bouncing in and out. Adam, I know you have to head out at a certain time, so feel free to just jump in any place you guys want to and just keep the conversation going. From that perspective, though, we'll start it off again. Adam, you were recently, and I invited Clay. I think he might be joining, but the Harmony with the Hounds. And can you speak to that a little bit? Because I was speaking to Clay and didn't really get too much into it. But Mars, you were a part of that as well in Pittsburgh, and kind of what that was all about and what it meant.
Yeah, totally, man. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Yeah, and Mars, feel free to jump in. But I got a note from Cole and Clay at Hounds about this idea they had to form a concept called Harmony. It started, to my knowledge, with a poem. There's a poem that was written that was super impactful that they read and digested and felt like, what if we brought together some folks to put some visuals behind this? So they worked with Jordan Armstrong on a video, and they worked with Maxwell from Morgantown, West Virginia on some still photos. And they scouted a really beautiful location in the south side. It was off of like South 12th, like that basketball court right at sunset, kind of like right now. I know I'm getting like a lot of glow in my eyes because I'm by a window, but it was this beautiful like diagonal orange hazy sunset light. And Maxwell's a pro. He went through and we popped off several photos that he had told me. He's like, hey, we want to aim for a late August release. He had talked about some events happening in DC around Black Lives Matter that they were hoping to parlay with, not take attention away from, but to build up into it. And they were super flexible on wardrobe. They were super flexible on, everything. They were just like, we want you guys to be part of this. And then we stepped away. That was like in late July. And now we're in late August, and about a month later, they began to share some of the assets and the creative from that shoot. And it's stunning. And I think the purpose of it
awesome.
was, they just knocked it out of the park. And I think Mars can speak towards it as well. But I thought taking the poem, taking the concept, and then taking it to visuals and a video, it was like one of the most smoothest executed creative concepts I've ever been part of.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. Just the way like how it came up, the concept. And even then, like being there with like everybody that was involved, it was just like a smooth transition day.
Yeah.
Everybody was just good to work with. We followed everything that Maxwell told us what to do, and just like we had music, we had snacks and everything. Like it was a real beautiful day, man. Just for that, it was a real beautiful day. And like you said, like Adam said, just how it all came together to what everybody's seeing now with the pictures and everything, like the unity, harmony, balance, just, everything that what it was. It's like when somebody tells you an idea and you're working it, and then when you finally get to see the end result, and then you realize how bigger, like you already knew it's bigger than you, but when you realize like it's truly bigger than you, like, wow.
Yeah, and I think bigger than you is the thing. I mean, that's what you feel when these types of situations are happening, is that it's bigger than you. And I reached out to him specifically about doing something like this because I was like, I don't know, how, like what to do in these types of situations as a white man. You know what I mean? Like it's just I don't want to come across as anything other than an ally and supportive and all those types of things, but I don't know what it's like to be in those types of situations. So he was someone I leaned on a little bit just for information on how it goes, man. Because, I mean, that's something every day that we don't deal with and you don't comprehend until something happens. Natty, you seem quiet today.
This is weird for you, yeah.
He's really upset about the messy move. He can't.
No, it's just everyone is here is creator, and I am far from it. Like, I am like numbers guy, like, it's just like calculated things. So
Natty, I'm far from it too, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you.
No, you're pretty good at like creative stuff. So it's just like for me, I'm thinking about the chess moves, like what's next, because
Yeah.
we've been here before.
Agreed.
We've been here a year before, and like, from my experience, like, living overseas, like I have seen campaigns in soccer. Like there was a campaign back, like, in the early 2000s that says no, say no to racism.
Yeah.
And there was a campaign called Kick It Out before that. And there, like, the whole, and with the Premier League and everyone kneeling down for, like, the movement. But I always want to know what's next.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm seeing, like, the basketball, like, players. I mean, kudos to them, because the thing is, like, even, like, Black people are not monolithic. Like, we're different. We have different, like, ideas and stuff. So for me, I'm seeing it from a point of view of, yes, like, it's very good. Like, they stopped, and like, that they are very unified, and they have this ripple effect. I mean, like, seeing it, like, I just saw even the NHL is not playing today. So I mean, seeing that. But it's just, for me, it's just like, what's next? What's tomorrow? It's just like, for me, I think of, like, I mean, the first thing would be, like, stop killing us. Like, that's the number one thing. Then we can deal with, like, the other situation that are systemic in it. Because if I am, like, I mean, before, like, I went to school, like, I used to work, like, for New Balance in downtown DC. And I used to design for them, and like, do their marketing and sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like, when I like, sometimes I'd go to the gym after work, and I have to navigate myself, like, to avoid police. And sometimes, like, I see the time and be like, I want to run, but, like, I don't want to run. And there are times, a couple of times, that, like, I got stopped because, quote unquote, I'm in a nice area.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating. So, like, for me, I see these things, and like, I'm a student of history, and it's just seeing things like what's next is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I even remember there was an iconic picture of Dani Alves, who was a Barcelona outside back, and next to him was the campaign "Say No to Racism." Mm-hmm. While he ate a banana, someone threw at his head.
Dan
and
Alves,
then he kicked the ball off the corner kick and scored the assist to win the game. And it embeds itself in your brain, because it's like you said, what's next? These flyers and these shirts can only go so far. Mm-hmm. Like, what is next is the question, and it's impossible to answer at this point, but it's the question you have to ask.
Yeah, it's the question that you gotta ask, and for Black people, we're always thinking about it. It's like, all right, we see where we're at now, but like the main thing that we've been saying since existence was, stop killing us. Yeah. Like, let us get a fair one, like everybody else is. You know what I'm saying? If like, there's no fairness in, like, even sports players. Like, I read today, I forgot who it was, but in Portland, I saw a tweet, and mm-hmm. It was about the guy who, like, he was taking either his nephew, he had 2 kids with him, and, just pulled out of his crib, and right before he even hit the corner, he gets pulled over. He's got everything. He's making sure he's got everything, yeah. Telling the kids, like, chill, you're young. Get to the officer. The officer, says his name, like, what's to seem to be the problem here. He gives him his license and registration, very subtle. I don't really want to talk to him, and then pow, finds out that who he is and who he plays for. Then the tone switches up. It's like, oh, I didn't know you were a somebody. It's like, well, it don't matter if he was a somebody or not. Like, I understand that, y'all putting y'all life on the line or whatever. That's the job that you chose. You put in those hours for that job at the end of the day. So what's coming with this. So as much as you're talking about, like, I want to get home, there's a lot of us that want to get home too. You know what I'm saying? We trying to get home. The objective for a Black person or people of color is to get back to the crib safely. Like anytime I'm out, I'm always thinking about, you know, I have to think ahead of time. I have to think like just where I'm at, who's like standing next to me, bumping this, that, no matter. I'm just like constantly aware of my surroundings. And like I said earlier when we was talking on the phone, the only time I feel safe, well, I'm supposed to feel safe, is in my crib. And even that would be on the table. That's a place that you supposed to feel safe. And if you can't feel safe there, then how you think we feel when we out every time we step out the door? You know, like it's things that like just don't make sense. Like we just ask that y'all stop killing us. So yeah, with sports, there's a lot of, they know this. So if they know about like, hey, I'm going to miss out on a couple paychecks, cool. I got it to miss. Like, and if they want to take that on, then so be it. And for us that, you know, can't, we're doing the best that we can on a different level. So everybody on different levels, everybody's doing their job. You know, they're trying to make awareness. You know, that's why I try to be like, I don't see when, you know, I saw Draymond, I read Draymond's post, and I had some mixed emotions about it, but I said, you know what? I'm real enough to be like, well, I can see you sad too. You know, like this platform is for us to keep doing that. You know, but they did that already. They was doing that when the bubble started. They like everybody was, you know. So it's like this happened again. Well, guess what? We don't want to play. And if we don't want to play, we ain't gotta play. So it's like that's it. Like if the owners is not going to come down here and stand next to us and y'all just sitting back and stuff like that, just not doing anything, it's like lift every voice. You know, there's a song that says lift every voice and sing until heaven earth done ring. Not just a Black voice, everybody's. Like we need everybody's help. Your voice matters when you're speaking with us, you know, in unity. You know, like we've been doing this on our own. You know, it's about time that we finally get some help from people, and people are stepping up and not scared to speak or whatever the case may be, because you're not speaking in negative. You're saying, yo, I'm tired of my friend or my Black friend, you know, that shit hurts people to see their friend, you know, like sad and shit like that. Excuse my friends. Sad and stuff like that.
It's okay.
We're on Twitch, man. You're good.
Fuck.
It's sad to see that stuff, you know, for anybody, you know, and it's like a lot of people hit me up today about, you know, what I was saying on my platform and everything. And it was just like, yo, man, I'm low. I feel low, like, because I've seen this time and time and time again. And you get to the point where, you know, you do have the moments where you cry it out. You know, you don't want to self-medicate and do a lot of other things. You're just like, I'm fed up, but I don't want to be back in these feelings. Then and that, but it just keeps happening. So it's like somebody's playing a trick on us, man. It's crazy.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because this is a conversation that my wife and I have had a number of times. And, you know, Mars, you talked a lot about finally people are with you. Is the social media reposting helping? Does that give comfort that we are aware of it or we're at least trying? Or is it kind of like we need to just listen type scenario?
Go ahead, Mars.
It's all about how you feel, man. I can't tell nobody, you know, like how. It's all about your feeling, your gut feeling. Do you feel like you want to post something? Then post it. If you feel like you want to speak out and be like, yo, this is wrong, you know, like it's all about seeing what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. We all call out the bounce, you know what I'm saying? So it's like any help. It doesn't, like sometimes it's like it's the new thing. Yo, read the room. Like just read the room. Like you'll know, like, okay, you know what? I need to be listening right now. That like, okay, that, and then you'll know when it's like, you know what, you're right, like stop, like we need, like this has to stop, you know. So I can't tell people whether, you know, to post or don't post or whatever, stay silent, whatever the case may be. Like I just try to tell people like, yo, if you feeling in your gut that you know like this is wrong, say something. You know what I'm saying? And if you feel like, you know what, I need to listen, then listen to your gut. Listen. Ain't nobody going to come at you like, you should have said something or you should have spoke up. You know, it's like, I can't be back going. I have to stay focused. And when I see people like my blinders is on and I'm in tunnel vision and I see people coming in to really help, then I'm like, yo, I know their heart's in the right place. It's all about this. It's just about reading the room, man. Just
Okay.
as long as you read the room correctly, you're good. You're okay with me.
Natty, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, so it's all about. I think Mars touched it very well there, but it's all about self-assessment because think about it as like don't I wouldn't post like things like graphic things because like they create trauma. Like we're like we are already living this thing every single day. I don't want to see it in my feed. And
Interesting.
yeah, that is like I mean that black trauma is there. So just I wouldn't post graphic things. Like supportive things are okay if you feel it. And the biggest thing is also is like if you don't know, like really ask because like you see me like nagging you guys with baseball stuff because I have no clue how that game is played. So like I always like be like asking stuff. So it's just same in that same context, like just like you can like mess. I'm sure you guys have friends like that like that are black or brown, like just text and just like someone that you can see, someone like and also like asking multiple people too because there are different types of outlooks out there. So just I think asking it that. But the whole graphic thing, like when people repost that, I was just like, please, like usually like I like like hide them forever because it's just that doesn't help.
Yeah. Natty, to kind of speak on top of that, first of all, if you ever have a baseball question, just come to me, bro. Just always do that. Just always do that, no matter what. But you bring up kind of the aspect of social media and Mars. I know you're great when it comes to using your platform to kind of shed light on how you're feeling and kind of I guess letting the world get an inside look onto what's going on from your perspective. I think with the rise of social media, there's definitely been a lot of positives and negatives that have come from it with regardless to it. But I would like all three of yours opinion actually on this perspective. How much do you think the rise of social media has really kind of influenced the idea where now essentially not everything is private anymore, but the fact that that's the case now, we now as a society kind of have our eyes wide open to more of what's going on in the world, where you could argue, I mean, I think that is partially the reason why there's been such an outcry over the last year and a half to 2 years with all of these senseless killings that have gone on from that perspective.
And if we could start with Adam, because your perspective, I mean, you create content professionally, and you are a very, prominent figure across every bar you end up at, every brewery you go to, every time the moped's driving around, everyone is aware of you. Like to Greg's point in social media in that sense, do you feel pressure from that? Like you know what I mean?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really deep question. I guess there's like, to relate it back to me, I guess there's two things I would say. One would be that as a non-Black person of color, we have a duty of allyship to our Black brothers and sisters, and that's something that we need to do a better job of. I think like a lot of white folks do a fantastic job with it. I have a lot of Asian friends. I don't actually have a lot of Indian friends. And what's funny is if you look at Indian culture and Indian history, there is a history of racism in Indian culture just off of skin tone, right? There are lighter and darker Indian people, and typically the darker Indian folks were living in southern India, and they were called Southees, and they get, weird, slangs, and they're sort of from a cultural stratification perspective, they're seen as lower, which is not right. And companies market products like skincare products that lighten your skin to help you maybe achieve a higher social status. It's a little bit more for women, but it's really controversial. And in light of Black Lives Matter and what we've seen lately, some of the bigger companies have actually pulled that stuff from the shelves, which is awesome to see. Like Unilever owns several soap and lotion companies. Like they're a behemoth in India. They've actually pulled some skin lightening products from the shelves.
Wow.
So like, this doesn't fit. Like what Mars said, read the room. Like, why are we promoting this stuff to make people go from darker to lighter skin, which was powerful, right? So that just goes back to like, if you're like me and you're a non-Black person of color, non-Black POC, like we've got to do a better job, and we've got to understand, where we fit in the conversation. I think a lot of it is listening. And then the second part of what I'd say, just as it relates to like the beer industry, I mean, I think you guys know I work in the beer industry, and the beer industry is like super white. Like it's almost, it's super white. So there are approximately 6,300 breweries or craft beer bars in the United States, and less than 50 are Black owned.
Wow.
Which is less than 1%. If you look at like beer manufacturing, that's absurd. And so often what I see, I mean, besides being the only person of color in a brewery, which I'm used to that by now, I've kind of, you know, it is what it is. But when people say that like, oh man, we can't wait for things to go back to normal, or like they aren't as aware, like when you touched on how social has elevated these issues into all of our lives, I'm not sure if people who are maybe older than me or don't use social as much, that are maybe a little more pigeonholed, and they look and they say, man, I can't wait for stuff to like just get back to how it was. And I'm like, I don't know that that's really the case, because the purpose of elevating these conversations is so that we all do talk about it, whether you consume media on television, radio, newspaper, magazine, social, wherever you consume. I mean, I'm definitely on my phone more. I think all of us are as well, but that's where we get media. And yeah, man, as a content creator, I think earlier Derek said it's like a good time to listen. And I've taken that to heart for sure. I think the only other thing I'll say that relates back to this and with the beer community, so there's been a lot of, on the positive side, some self-awareness. So obviously Pittsburgh being the host site for something like Fresh Fest, the purpose of Fresh Fest was to have a beer festival that celebrates the accomplishments of Black people in beer and people of color in beer. And like when the pandemic hit in March, the guys at Fresh Fest were like mid-planning, because that hits every August. So then they were like, oh shit, we can't safely have Fresh Fest. Like we can't gather people in the north side here in Pittsburgh to have this beer festival. And it was incredible to see, like, you know, I said earlier, there are only like 60 or so Black owned breweries in the US. They got like 30 of them to come to Pittsburgh. Wow. And a lot of those guys, like talking to them here in Pittsburgh, it was their first time here. And they were like, it was so funny because they're looking around and we're at a beer festival and it's all these people of color having a great time, because there's the beer side, the art side, the performance side. It's all happening. And this dude from, I forget, I think he was from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We ended up adding each other on Instagram and we keep up. But he was like, man, Pittsburgh's awesome. Like, I can't believe you guys have so much diversity. And I'm like, my man, like, you are seeing one day, one lens. Like,
aimed at diversity. Like you're one day aimed directly at it. Yeah, man.
Yeah, you're seeing the best of it. Yeah, because they've curated this amazing experience. Yeah. And he's like, I can't believe this is my first time in Pittsburgh and this is what y'all have. And I'm like, well, today. But that was cool. It was a nice thing to see, and like the pivot to virtual and then all these different collaboration beers. And that's why I was like,
is it the Black is Beautiful?
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I saw some things, Adam, because can you explain a little bit of that? Because
where do we get it first?
Exactly.
I'll let him answer that, but question. I saw it at Alamo Brewing in San Antonio. They did a part of the campaign, so that's why I learned it was a campaign. But can you speak to more about where to get it in Pittsburgh and DC for Natty, and then what it actually means?
And first, in the chat, the chips are gone this week to lend sincerity to the thing. However, I would like everyone to hydrate in the idea of chips, and raising a toast to social equality here. So there we go.
Salut.
Again, thank you guys for being on.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, right, no doubt.
Tell me about this beer.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it quick. I know I'm talking a lot, but basically the Black is Beautiful collab was part of what came out of all of this. So the pandemic sucks. Like, Black Lives Matter is happening. It's part of the conversation. The beer industry is super white. They thought, what can we do to elevate these issues and to actually drive real money towards causes? So I'll just read the can, and it just says, brewed to support justice and equality for people of color. And so as far as like where to get it, what it means, how it got started, there's a brewery in San Antonio, and it's called Weathered Souls, and I think they're written on here as well. But Weathered Souls, they created a beer recipe that they open sourced. They're like, all right, we're gonna come up with this recipe. It'll be a stout, so it'll be a darker beer, and then we'll just put it out there. Anybody can take the recipe on from the internet and then brew it and then sell it. But when you go to sell it, take the proceeds and put them towards causes that benefit people who have been incarcerated, benefit people who have had any issues with like law enforcement, and with getting to where we can have the conversation on the policy level to change how we can come about with police reform. So Black is Beautiful was brewed. I mean, we're talking like hundreds of breweries around the U.S. brewed Black is Beautiful. There are about 40 breweries in Allegheny County, and I'd say over 2/3 of them brewed Black is Beautiful. So there's a good chance that this particular one, the label that I have, this is from 11th Hour, so they're just over here in Lawrenceville.
Okay. Yeah.
Usually you'll see the Black is Beautiful artwork, which was also open sourced, and then just look in the corner to see if it's like, just for example, here in Pittsburgh, like Cinderlands, 11th Hour, East End.
I saw it at Brewdog too.
Yeah.
When I was there for lunch.
I think
saw it at Hop Farm, I think.
I
Yeah.
think Couch
Hop
was
Farm.
doing something too with Abjuration, maybe to like kind of do it together, as far as I'm aware of.
I have the
Yeah.
list up for our viewers right now.
Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch. I feel like we could
It's
go
up
through
in the
like
pen
a
right
ton of
now.
them. But yeah, Couch collaborated with Abjuration and First Sip Brew Box, which is a Black veteran-owned business, to do their collab. And they're all kind of talking about where proceeds will go. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I mean, it's super impactful. It's honestly just the start. This isn't going to be any kind of like solution, but I was like, hell yeah. I mean, I'm in these breweries. I'm interviewing all the brewers every week for my beer column. I've been covering beer for a while, and I haven't really ever seen people of color as part of the conversation at breweries. And the other funny thing was there was one so like, it was like, I think it was late May. I just got a very random sporadic phone call from the head brewer at Dancing Gnome, who's a good friend of mine. And it was really enlightening because, again, a white owned brewery. And he was like, I love this idea. I love what it's about, but I wanted to call and talk to you because you're one of our regulars and you're a person of color and you're in the media business. And he was like, we would like to actually not do Black is Beautiful and just take a whole batch of beer and then take the proceeds from that batch and just straight donate it. And
That's
because
awesome.
they felt uncomfortable with turning a profit off of such an emotionally tough situation. And that's another like whole another conversation. And I think the Black is Beautiful collaboration hit the mark in a lot of ways. I mean, that certainly wasn't an intention to raise money off of conflict or to raise money off of like something that's such a struggle. But that was cool that he reached out before it hit Twitter, before it hit Instagram. He was like, hey man, I just wanted to tell you, this is my thoughts and why we're not going to brew it, but we are going to donate to a cause. We're just going to straight up brew a batch, take the proceeds from that batch and do a straight donation. Because we feel they're like, they agree, they're obviously on the right side of history, but they were like, it just doesn't sit well with us to sell this stuff and turn a profit that might come from not the best place.
Yeah.
Well, and you brought it up. It came at a time when the Black Lives Matter movement was happening, but it was also a global pandemic. So it's a way for both sides to benefit strongly, not to benefit from conflict, but to benefit from trying to help each other. So no, they're an amazing brewery in Pittsburgh. Anyone watching, please check out Dancing Gnome. So thank you, Adam, for that.
And also, real quick, shout out to First Sip Brew Box. I actually got a box as a Christmas gift last year from my girlfriend. That box is awesome. I highly recommend. They're also part of the group that's trying to build the first ever beer museum in Pittsburgh too. So the more that you buy off of it, the more they're going to help towards getting that solved. And who doesn't want a beer museum in Pittsburgh? Come on, let's be real about that.
That was the most realistic free ad you've ever given. Back over.
I want a beer museum. God damn it.
Same question that Greg, just kind of asked. Mars, you're very vocal on social media, and you're one of few people that feels comfortable wearing his heart on his sleeve in a social aspect. I think we all want to portray we live lives that are very cool and very strong and very, I would say unopinionated in a matter of, this is my social channel, I don't want conflict, you know what I mean? But Mars, you always, you're a person that I've talked to you about mental health. I've talked to you about my personal issues. We've had open conversations at bars about things most people wouldn't say outside of their homes. As a black man in America that wears his heart on his sleeve through social media, I'm sure you've seen your fair share of hate with it. But you keep doing it, and that's the struggle.
Like, that's just me as a person. Like, I'm just like one of them type of people that's just like, I was raised like that. I never saw, I was raised in a single parent household. So it's just me, my mom, and my sister. Never saw my mom hold like her thoughts back or her opinions. And though maybe as I was young, maybe some of her opinions was wrong, but I've always seen my mom apologize for things as well, so she's always taught us how to, if you want to speak, make sure you know what you're talking about and make sure you know that you're not just saying things just to be saying things. So anything that I say on my social media platform or how I'm feeling, it's coming from my heart. It's really coming from a good place, because I respect people. I know what to say and I know what not to say, So when I'm feeling like today, it was just like sometimes, not even today, just usually how I'm feeling is just about certain things, especially in the city. Like I'm 34, I've been here. I know I've seen my fair share of everything. And also I went to school, I went to college, so it's like I got two different perspectives on everything, corporate world, just amongst peers world, just the art world, just different like different things in the city, and then amongst the world, it's just like, we had our fair share with things happening in the city as far as I could remember from when I was even young, So I try to just let people in on, not just how I'm feeling, but like I'm screaming out. I'm just like, yo, hello, like is anybody I'm not perfect every day. I'm not this holly jolly make your heart dance dude every day, man. I'm a regular dude, I feel, I get mad, I can get petty, I'm human, so if anything, it's just like I'm showing people that like, yo, hello, I'm a black man in Pittsburgh, but I'm a black man. So it's like this stuff that's happening, it could be me. Like I could literally walk outside of my crib right now.
Yeah.
And the possibilities of me getting shot or me like getting into anything, just me minding my own business, like literally, like there's people that's minding their own business in their own world, not even thinking about, and they don't know what's coming to them. You don't know. And that's the anxiety and the PTSD, that we feel. It's like, yo, like I don't want to feel like this, but at the end of the day, I know like this is a part of me. This is life. How am I getting through it? Social media can, be an outlet for some people and it can't be an outlet for some people. It's for some people, it ain't for some people. Some people don't know how to use it, I always say, shoot, the homie Zuckerberg used me and my college. I graduated 2005 of high school. So yeah, when I went to school, I was the first like generation Facebook user. So it's like just being the first of. We just had walls to see what it is now. To see what social media is now. It's just like it can take you certain places because you're like when somebody says I'm not a mind reader, you're lying. We're all mind readers. We read each other's minds every single day. Like every day that we write something or a thought or anything, like it's coming
That's
from
what it says on Twitter. It says "What's on your mind," or for Facebook forever, it was literally "What's on your mind." And I remember that because back in like 2009, when I would put really stupid things, I would be like, "Haha, Facebook, you don't even want to know," or things like that. But it is what's on your mind, and it's what you know what I mean. You're I obviously said Adam is by trade a content creator, and Natty said he was not a creator, but I disagree. Every single thing you do every day is a creation of something. You know what I mean? Like not to get into it, but like you said, Mars, you're a man that some days you're petty, some days you're mad, some days you're angry. But you're a man and you feel and you put that out there for people and like I'm a huge fan of your social channels. I love that you put that out there. I think that that's organic and it's real, and like you said, it follows the whole mantra of read the room. Like that's who you are.
That's all it is.
Mars.
Yeah, you gotta follow Mars, Natty.
Okay.
It's really about reading the room. Like I read the room wherever you see me out. You know how I come through. I'm always just I'm watching, but I'm having a good time. Don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying myself. It's just how I was raised. It's like a third eye. Like I had no choice but to be like this, because where I'm from how I was raised, it wasn't a good part of Pittsburgh, so it's like, I've seen cops do stuff that like, I'm like, man, I've been seeing this since I was 11 years old, bruh. Like this ain't nothing new to me. I've been seeing this. And it's just like, what's new to a lot of people is just like, through social media. It's so easy for people to put out their phones and see a tragedy. Like I can tell y'all the first time I ever saw a tragedy on like line was somebody getting their head cut off, and we was in high school. I shouldn't have saw that. Like, how was that even something that I saw, but I always tell people I saw that, and forever it was like, no, that's not real. Wait, this is real. Ebon's world and all that stuff. And now it's just like straight up. I just showed my age. now, now it's just like like yo, anybody could put anything out there, and like Natty said before, like I don't repost that stuff on my socials. You ain't never seen me repost nothing that's gonna like is a traumatic experience to me. I can't do that to myself. I hide it. I block it. I be like, yo, why would y'all? Even when I'm like, I don't even watch TV because like right now they're constantly just showing it 24/7. There's kids, man. Like little babies is watching this. Like they're seeing this right now. And they got to talk about this. This is what they're talking about in school right now. Yeah. What's happening right now is what they're talking about. We wasn't talking about that on the first day of school when I was in school. I don't know. We wasn't talking about what they're talking about now. So like, fast forward of mind and thinking and stuff. Like everybody's using their voice. Like little babies is going out and telling their moms and dads like, I know I want to write Black Lives Matter in the street. To tell a child that they can't do that or they're wrong, you'll forever scar that child because they'll always be looking at you like, well, you know what? What's up with you? Until they get to an age where they're able to question your morals and everything else. I've seen it. I've seen people my age finally being like, even my white brothers, like I finally told my mom, like, this can't be. And I'm just like, wow, like, that's crazy. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, well, it took you long enough. It's like, because I'm not in your household. I can't do that. Who am I to, I'm just here to be like, man, yo, I understand how you feel, bro. Like, I'm the type of like, yo, this is life. But at a certain time, it's just like, you're like, whoa, I commend you, dog. Like, because that lets me know like you're fed up. We're all fed up, so yeah.
Just I kind of want to get your perspective on, because he brought something up, Natty, which to me was like, you get away from things on social media, but then you see those stuff. On the phone call we had earlier, Natty, you said something that kind of stuck with me instantly, which is that normally this show for you is an escape from the day to day, and you tune in every show, and every show you say, this is an escape for me to get away from the world, get away from the issues, and it's something where I can just sit down and enjoy. But you understood why we decided to do this one, and obviously you sat on, so you are with it. But when it comes to that escape type of stuff, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing with the sports, right? Is that they're saying we're no longer going to be your escape from this situation.
Yeah, the reason I say that is just because of like also the thinking of like, what's next. And I actually like, if you remember, I actually suggested sometimes it's better to have like an all white audience, cast to speak about it, because this is very uncomfortable topics. And you want to like, you want your white, like, allies, friends, you want them to speak about this stuff. And like, it's just, but I also see your point of view, because it depends on like, like where you come from, like, where you grew up. I mean, you'd have like, obviously like, you have the whole international student friends, but it's just, we didn't talk about this kind of stuff deeply. So I can understand how like, you want to get the perspective, but I just wanted like, but then I listened and like, okay, it makes sense. But I also want you guys to talk about like, just because this is very uncomfortable, because usually like, when I mean, Mars, and you can attest to this, when we speak about it, it's like sometimes it's like talking to a wall, like, like because it feels like that. But like, when you have a friend that is like white, and when they speak about it, like, there are certain people that will listen, because I mean, I have seen this a lot. Like, I have seen this in a lot of my friends from like, like Pittsburgh's Sipper Rock and stuff. Like, it's just, even if like, they knew you, but they tend to listen to more of like, someone that kind of look like them, and it kind of hurts, but it's just, it's conversation that need to happen. In regards to the social media aspect, It's a balancing effect because like the amount of times that I didn't have headache or like social like trauma is like when I shut down all my social medias. When I do that, hey, I smell the roses, like I do like a lot of good things, and it's just, but at the same time also I understand that if it wasn't for social media, we'll not have this big effect. If it wasn't for video cameras and everything, like your mail, your everything in a small device,
Yeah.
we're not gonna have this big outcry because people now can see it. I mean, this is not a new thing. Like I mean, since like the 13th Amendment, like we have been uh, I mean, we have been hanged, we have been lynched, we have been like segregated. I mean, this is not something new. And I mean, like they use a loophole in the 13th Amendment to incarcerate like people. I mean, the history of policing and like the prison systems is like something that we're going to take a huge chunk of the show, so I'm not going to get into that. But it's just that's the reason, like what we see right now. So sometimes it's a balancing effect, like know how to use your social media, but sadly you would run to like threats. And I am a victim for this. Like I start like, because these people, I knew them at certain point in life, or everyone I have in my Facebook is like someone I know at certain point in life. I start reading this, and sometimes Joe drops like how's their thought process is like that, and you just question all the amount of time. Damn, that like I break bread, like I have like had beers with these people before, so it's a balancing act.
Just to get into some of the comments here, so a couple guys that we normally have on, Meech and Nico, are discussing, the whole stick to sports thing, and the whole, and I've been obviously bringing it back into sports a little bit. I've always been a LeBron James hater on the court.
Yeah.
Off the court, I think he's one of the greatest human beings we have, and Mars is laughing because he knows I stand that way. But that's like someone coming in. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like someone coming to my place of work and saying, stick to marketing. Or, you know what I mean? Going up to Josh and say, stick to video. And it's
You do say that a lot.
I do, but that's because there's not in this sense. But from a perspective of like actually sticking to sports or whatever it is, I think, Natty, you brought it up best to me, which is, social media is where we're getting all this information, but it's also at the same time something that needs to be shut off. And it's such a double-edged sword for situations like that. And then you get, perspectives like LeBron coming up and talking about police reform taken the wrong way on social media, and then people take it and kind of run with it, which it's double-edged, like you said, man.
And I'm gonna like point this out here too. So like I come from a household where I have a dad who believes in that idea that not necessarily stick to sports, but the idea of everything going on in the world should stay out of it, and sports should essentially be an escape. And I could see a reasoning for that, but from the other perspective too, and which is a bigger reasoning too, is that you have such a huge platform to be able to get your voice out there that I personally believe that you should be able to say what it is that you want to around essentially the biggest audience that you can, because you're essentially attacking a number of people that are trying to, while yes, they are escaping from it, getting your message across, I believe, is essentially a huge difference from that perspective right there, because you could essentially change people's minds from there. Or even if you don't change minds, at least get people talking, because that's the most important thing, I think, from this idea there.
Yeah. Just want to add something. Like when I say like like be out of it, it's not like be out of it. I was strictly like trying to make sure because like this show is like like Elsa's making bullshit claims about Liverpool all the time, and you two are like so it's enjoyable, but at the same time, because we know you as like oh, this is a good show, like we watch every week. But at the same time, like I want you guys to do the research, like, because I'm sure you guys do the research for the baseball, for like everything that like opens like a big Pandora, because now like when you research like like I mean, go and watch the movie 13th, like that can change your mind in a whole new level. And like, read like books like, Abraham's books, Zandy's books, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And it's just researching those things. I know this is a short, like it happened really soon since your last show, but like I wanted you guys like to do the research and like actually have those and like uncomfortable conversations. But I definitely get like the fact that like sports not going on. Oh, I definitely get it, because I mean think of like Muhammad Ali. I mean think of like the guy the Olympic guys,
Jesse
like
Owens.
and like the two other guys, and the Australian guy too. Like a lot of people don't talk about it, but like that guy like sacrificed literally everything of his career after that, after giving them his gloves. And like when you think about those things, I mean this is like one of those moments, like walking away from a playoff game. But it's just my idea was just to make sure you guys talk about it, and I hope you do continue to talk about it, because it's a very important topic. And
When and I don't want to speak obviously for you, Adam, so tell me if I'm misspeaking here. But I know for as a brown person that is not black, or a person of color, excuse me, for white guys in this situation, we have the kind of bliss to look away from it if we want to. We have the luxury of not having to have this discussion. We have the luxury of being like, oh, I'm just going to turn it off. So obviously, Adam, I don't want to speak for you in that situation, but I know as a white male in America, we can say, oh, well, we're just not going to have these tough discussions. But that's just not a luxury for you guys. You know what I mean? Like, at least in my brain, it's not, because Mars, I see your pain, and I see and it's not a situation where you can just wake up and say, I'm going to turn this off or ignore this. And so, obviously, again, don't want to speak for you in that situation, Adam, but that's something that, I think about when we were planning this, and I thought about when I was on the phone with you guys, is that, it's crazy to me that we have the ability to just ignore this, and it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, totally. I like when I see folks who are not black, whether they're white or non-black people of color, or anybody, elevating the conversations, whether it's through social or in person. One person comes to mind that I think she's done a really, really strong and just good job. And I'm sorry if I'm cutting out. It's just raining really hard here.
Oh, it is here too. Don't worry.
We're in Lawrenceville too, so it's pouring.
Okay. Yeah, it's like it just started coming down. But the my friend Kate runs a vintage shop called Ruling. It's up in Upper Lawrenceville. It's on Butler Street. And ever since, the pandemic, but also with the elevated issues of Black Lives Matter entering the conversation, like she has a platform, and she has pivoted so much of what she does as Kate, but also as her brand, as Ruling, around making sure that these conversations are had and elevating all these different causes. And it strikes me very much because she's just like this awesome, like lovely, petite white girl. And we went to college together in Ohio, where I think, the culture is a little bit different, but we didn't have those conversations back then. And I know Mars said he's 34. I'll be 34 in a month. So I'm 33. And I remember when we like got social and we got our first email address and we got to college and we like began to like meet new people and all of that. And Kate's someone I really admire and look up to. And I felt like, I was like, man, she's not backing down. And whether it helps or hurts her business or any of that, I just thought it was super awesome because it wasn't something that I expected. A lot of her like products are beautiful, elevated, oh, wow. Like home stuff. Yeah. You guys seen this
oh,
store?
yeah. Yeah. We got it pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, it's huge. Jeez, okay, we might lose power. But anyways, it was something that, to go back to like Natty's point and Mars too, I was just very uplifted to see that she was like, straight up, we got to have these conversations, however hard they are. And, that was cool coming from someone who's not even a person of color.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the thing that we just keep saying, and not to bring it all back to sports, but Joe Burrow brought up, how can you hear these stories and hear these plies and hear, Mars talked about the Portland Trailblazer basketball player that got pulled over and, for no reason, and then he gave him his ID, and then the guy wished him luck at the game that night, and things like that. And, like, how do you hear these stories and not just say flat out, like, I'm an ally. Like, I'm on your side. Like, maybe I don't get it. And Natty, I love that you challenged for research, because that's, I think, you ask what the next step is, and the next step is proactively understanding and trying my ass off to get why these things are happening and what's going on, and those types of levels to the situation. So obviously it's a very complex conversation and story and issue, but it's something that it needs to happen.
Yeah, because these like everybody said, these conversations can get uncomfortable, for a lot of people, not just, for me too, because it's all about trust. It's like, do I trust having these conversations with you? And if I feel like you're trustworthy and I feel comfortable to have these conversations, then it's like, you don't know where this can go. This has got us here, to have this conversation. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it started with like Muhammad Ali, man. Like, he was not with nobody telling him how to say it, what to say, or how to feel. He's like, yo, like I always say, this is the new thing, yo, read the room, man. It's like, hey, man, look at this. Like, and I commend when people that, aren't Black going hard, because it's in their heart. They feel it. They see it, and they're like, yo, we're tired. Like, if my brother is tired, I'm tired, because like, don't nobody want to have to deal with this time and time again. It really does something to you. It really just like Natty said, yo, I've had those moments where I would try to escape. I try to turn off my phone, and yeah, you do. It sucks that like, as Black, we have to try without feeling like we leave, like we're just not caring, or leaving our people behind, but it's self-care, man. Everybody deserves self-care. Everybody deserves that moment of peace. We're always trying to find that peace, and it's like, my peace has been disrupted by what I've seen these past couple of days, and it's like, even with George Floyd, that was hard. That was like something it's always, every incident, whether it's Antoine Rose, you know what I'm saying, Hair, like Breonna, like Sandra Bland, all these people, it's the emotions for every time. You're just like, man, like, you feel it, and it's like somebody like in your family has passed away, you're just like, that's how connected we are. That's how connected Black people are, like spiritually, and just like, just how we are. We're just like, yo, it hit hard. Just as like people, when Kobe, passed away and the world stopped, just imagine that every single day of your life.
Yeah.
Like,
that's exactly what I was thinking of when you were talking about that, is that,
that's
so many people mourn the death of Kobe Bryant, and then those, traditionally those same people do not mourn the death of certain situations down the road. And it's something that you mentioned, and something that Chance mentioned when we were on the phone this morning, is that the African-American athlete is not seen as a human, that is a superhero.
Yep.
And it's a very real statement that stuck with me that I never really thought of before today. It's something that it rings true.
It is. Like, we look at LeBron James, some of us off the court and on the court, like, we look at him as a superhero. Like, it's like, wow, but then you never like, this is a human being. It's a regular dude. He has kids. I don't got kids. After seeing Robert Horry, and seeing what he said today, watching Chris Webber, seeing the emotions, like, those emotions is what I feel like when y'all don't see me sometimes, man, I hate those emotions because it just comes out. And here I'm just sitting at my desk before I have to go to a meeting with my big bosses, and I'm crying. I did that. That happened to me yesterday. I cried before I went to a meeting. Like, I'm at my desk and my fiance is looking at me, and it just all came out. I'm tired of this. Like, this, how could this be? This, like, just, and I had to suck it up, wipe my tears away, put some Visine in my eyes, because I just want to make sure, like, and just be like, okay, I'm good. And I go ahead and I go get my work done. And then it's like, after I'm done with that, because they don't know what's wrong, and I don't want to bring my problems of the world, which I understand they'll care about, they will care about, but just me as being a black person, I got to keep this. I'm good, dog. This it ain't nothing. It ain't nothing, but it hurts. I can't fake it no more. It's just like, as you get older, you get really in tune with the world and your feelings. And you get to the point where you're just like, you damned if you gonna love me for who I am right now. And that's just what it is, because I'm learning every day, but what we're going through in the world right now, and with social media and it's being right in front of our faces, it's like there is no, like, people will choose to be blind to it. They'll still choose.
Oh yeah.
They'll still be like, okay, well, he shouldn't have, or no. This man took somebody's life. Like, he almost took a life. This guy's paralyzed now. He can't walk. He can't pick up his children. He can't go play. He can't go run. You took that away from that man. He should have had his day. This is why NBA players and people are just mad, whether all sports, they're just like, they have to be in the locker room with their teammate. What do they say to him? You know what I'm saying? What do white people say to black? It's like, that's where we're at now. And I'm glad we're here, because it was ordained to be like this. It's finally getting to a point where it's like, we have to have the uncomfortable conversation. We always talk about love, peace, and unity. Well, to get there, you have to get uncomfortable first. To get to that food that we all want to sit around the table and have this good food. We have to get to the that's a little bland right there. I ain't trying to mess with that right there. Like, that's not good. Let's get this out of here. We got to get to that uncomfortable stage so we can get to where we want to get. And everybody wants peace. Everybody wants joy. Everybody wants happiness. There's people that's died trying to get that, trying to fight for a lot of people to be like, peaceful protests, this, that, the third, all this stuff in the world. And no matter how the media spins it, they spin it, those headlines could trigger you, like, they can paint this 17-year-old that's just out here just capping people. He killed the white person. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody that actually was like, you're doing wrong, and I'm trying to get you down because you're out here just wilding. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. And it's like, I look at that dude as a hero. I'm like, bro, you risked your life, bro. You know how many black people don't risk their lives? So to see somebody risking their life, I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see that video, but I respect you more that you risked your life, bro. You didn't even know. There was, in your mind, you probably didn't even think there was a possibility that this dude was going to shoot you, but he shot you. And now, now y'all, it's like, do you understand how real it is out here? Yeah. People are risking their lives for us. We've risked our lives since our existence to make sure, like, everything is okay. So this is nothing, like, I'm not trying to be like, this ain't nothing new to us. You know what I'm saying? Because we've seen this time and time again. We've seen Martin Luther King. He's got shot just for having a dream that one day we will all be loving each other and just making sure that one of another is cool. Like, he died. Somebody killed him because of what he. Yeah. That's crazy. Like, that doesn't make you feel some type of like, what? Like, the audacity that you would take somebody away because of how they view, like, we can be good. We can all, after all the stuff that we've dealt with, we still trying to make it work. Yeah. And it's like, you're pushing people to the edge. Yeah. You're pushing to the, and I don't know what type of edge you're trying to push to, but like, I don't like to use the word strong because we don't like the word strong sometimes. That's what we get labeled. Strong. Like, no, I don't know what to call it, but like, when you push anybody, you push them to the edge, what happens? Chaos. Yeah. And that's what we don't want to see. We don't want to see nobody, but there's people out there that's like, all right, That's strike how many? There ain't no more strikes, man. Y'all can't do this. Like it just sucks, But I'm like, don't take the voice away from the sports players. They're doing it's dope, man. It's like I know people say, well, they should have been doing this before. Rule number one to like making people aware of what's going on, you gotta. It sucks to say, but you gotta patient. But sometimes it's like our patience has ran out, and we just want to. Yo, you should be up. You should be sped up. But when you really think about it, everybody's in their own bubble. It's really like that. Everybody doesn't think of like how everybody thinks, and it's frustrating. But it's like, are you gonna have the patience? And I'm just thankful that my homies got it like that from the day one. From the first time I've been around a lot of my homies, it's been like we didn't have to have that. Like I cried on the phone with Derek today. Like I was just like, that's how emotional I was, because I'm just like, yo, this is just how I feel. I can't help it, and I'm not going to apologize for how I feel, because I've seen this time and time and time again. So what else you want me to say? You want me to fake the funk? No, I'm not faking the funk. It's just like, it's time to have them uncomfortable conversations, and shoot, what's uncomfortable to me and you, like, we can get past that as long as we have the conversation. But if there ain't no conversation and people don't want it, there's a lot of people out there that don't want to have that conversation.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to make them have it, but I'm thankful that we're having that, you guys used your platform, for this, and I've already had the highest respect for you guys, but I have the utmost respect for you guys after this. And I mean that, because like I've seen, people not use their platform that actually are big staples in this city, and it's just like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're coming up with a board of how we're going to move forward or whatever the case may be. But it's not about striking white irons. How it's like, yo, my heart felt like this today. So I called people that I loved and that I appreciated to have this uncomfortable conversation. And here we are.
And just Adam, I know you do have a hard stop, so if you need to head out, please feel free at any time to say you're heading out. Just because I know you have another thing to get to, or I forget what time you said for it. Just so you know, nothing too crazy there. But just so you guys know, like I mean, this was a conversation Josh brought up yesterday about one of the shows we have, and both of these guys on my left and right in the camera, literally the second we were thinking about this idea, we're on board and we're open to discussion, and we don't exactly, there's a lot of times where it's this like, we don't know what we can do, so we're going to try to do what we can do, if that makes sense. And I know hearing the conversation, Natty, you said like sharing certain things that, and not to sound ignorant, but that never crossed my mind, if that makes sense. Like I would have never thought, and I don't really share that type of stuff, but I have a lot of friends that do, and I think their intent is to share it for the world, but at the same time, you don't put yourself into someone else's perspective. So I think that's such a crucial comment tonight.
Yeah, it's. Oh, go ahead, Ed.
I was just gonna say, I think too, I've always said that sports is the great unifier, right? You could hate somebody you've never met because of another team, right? Yeah. Or you could love somebody because you sit down in an arena millions of miles away from your home and they're wearing the same colors you are, and you're like, hey, we're on the same team today. And it's just like, I saw the rumblings at like 4:30 because I think tip-off was at 5 that the Bucks weren't going to play. And that felt like the most important thing that's happened in my life concerning sports. And I said to Derek immediately, I was like, we can't talk about sports today. We can't. We could. There's plenty of sports still playing. Lionel Messi is, taking the world by storm. But like, we need to talk to our friends and have honest conversations. And when we posted what we were going to do today, the number of people that reached out to me through DMs and stuff and saying, hey, I'm tuning in tonight, thanks for tuning this, like that kind of thing, is awesome. But I challenge all of them to take these notes that I've been taking and go out and do something about it. I know that I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I now have a really great appreciation for the tone and sincerity I need to do it with. So thank you guys. I mean, it's really been incredible. Like Adam, you brought up the thing about the light skin toning makeup stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Natty and Mars just started shaking their heads emphatically, like, "Oh yeah, that's old hat." I was flabbergasted that even existed.
I never knew that existed either. Like, I'm really surprised by that.
It's messed up, but yeah, you're right. So if it's your first time hearing about it, yeah, it's a real thing.
And so that's regular thing, Natty? Like for you?
I mean, like the thing is, like, there's this term called colorism, and like that's a big thing. And I'm actually Adam, I'm familiar with, like, Indian culture a lot, like, and like I remember I have some conversation with, like, parents of, like, my Indian friends, and like, when there's marriage proposals and stuff like that, oh, is she, like, a Gujarati, or like, is she, like, from up north, or is she from south, like, those, like, and then recently I actually watched Indian matchmaking on Netflix.
Okay.
That is
also
like,
didn't know that was a thing either, for the record.
Oh
yeah.
no, like
It's
that
like
is
weird, yeah.
yeah, it's the thing is, like, I know about it, so like, like watching it, like, it was interesting, but you learn even more what's going through, like, this matchmaking scene, like, how, like, how, like, even, like, you'd have, like, so much money if you are, like, a South Indian and you are darker skinned, and still you are considered in a different caste. So but that also, like, happens, like, in the, like, Black community. And for me, like, I have different Black experience than, like, Mars's, because like, I'm African and also American, because I live, like, I was here when I was a little baby, but, like, because of my parents' job, like, I left and lived, like, in Europe, Africa, Asia, and stuff like that. So I have seen it from an outsider point of view. I mean, the first racial profiling, actually, scratch that. It's not even racial profiling. The first racist incident that happened to me is when I flew in, like, my first semester in Slippery Rock, in the airport. I asked this guy, like, like, what time is it? And he murmured something like, like, I don't know, the N-word, and walked away. And I was just like, I was just like, at that point, I have nothing to say but to laugh, because that point, like, for me, I didn't experience it. And I sometimes say to people, like, Black people don't want revenge. They just want equality. That's all. And that's the biggest, like, thing I tell people. And like, for me, like, I could live today. I could live today and go back. Like, my parents live in Ethiopia. Like, I can go back there, and like, I can live with people that look like me, like, and stuff. But it's just, like, even for me, like, just seeing it from, like, 2007 on, like, I can't even imagine what Mars went through, like, in, like, high school, middle school, lower school, just going through, like, TV programming, like, the whole, like, from top down things. It's hard. And definitely, like, how do you say your name? Adam? Is it Adam?
Well, in English, in my native language, in Hindi, it's Adam. So
Adam.
I'm speaking Hindi, and it's Adam, but in English, it's just Adam. Yeah.
Okay, Adam. Okay. Just want to make sure. But yeah, like, I mean, like, how the colorism is, like, in the culture, and like how you get treated better. And like, I mean, like, it's I know this, it's not funny, but like, do you remember that episode from Family Guy? He was like, looking at the color patterns. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys remember that. It's just, I mean, that is like, funny, but it's really true.
Yeah.
It was really, really true.
And he was looking to if it was like arrestable, I believe was the like it
yeah,
was a certain color palette
was
that
yeah.
you
exactly.
And that's, it's like you said, you don't want to be funny, and it's funny, but it's real.
It's
well, and WWE forever was what, the brown paper bag. You couldn't be darker than a brown paper bag to be the world champion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very real, and it's funny that like when I was talking about that, and to see Mars and Nadia like nodding, like, oh, yep, heard of this, seen it, but it also I'm thankful that you guys as like a white crew are putting out this episode and this platform themed around this, because like I don't think about it that often, but when it came up and I was thinking about like what Nadia said, it is colorism is the word for it, but it's bizarre and it's odd that it's only one generation removed, because I was born in Ohio, and like, my name is Adam or Adam in English, but my parents were both born in Rangoon in Burma, which is just east of India, and their parents are Gujarati, which is Western India, present day Western India.
Yeah.
So Gujarati or Gujarat is a northern province, so we're considered a little bit lighter. I'm definitely a little bit darker, but like most people in northern India are a lighter shade of brown. And as you move further south into like Uttar Pradesh and like Tamil, like those South India regions, they are like dark, like super, super dark. And where it's bizarre, or I guess sad, is that it affects their social standing in Indian culture. And when it comes time for like marriage or jobs or any of that, that's where it really becomes like palpable and elevated. And it is really weird when you see some of these Indian matchmaking shows or things, and it's meant to be entertainment and funny. But imagine going on a first date, and your first date is it's your resume, it's your salary, it's probably your LinkedIn, and then your parents are there too. Like, it's so weird and awkward. And that's kind of, I think, what like Natty was talking about.
Yeah, and I see also like usually like from what I heard, like if you are like from like Armistar, Punjab and stuff like that, like you get like to the top of the pile and stuff. It's insane. But it's just like it's the same thing. Like in different cultures, there are different types of discrimination, but it all down to like I mean. Everywhere the British been is a messed up. Like they left it messed up. I mean, like.
I mean, seriously though, if you consider,
That's the most
I think it was
truthful thing in history.
something around that in South Africa a couple years ago. There was revolutions and things, and it's.
I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, like 400 years in India, 1945 was, I think, like, and I mean, like the reason there is like still like Pakistan and India have like still are arguing with Kashmir is because of like a lot of the influence of like British. And you go to also to like Israel, present day Israel. I mean, it's just so like that influence also like after they after like the America is founded and stuff, like it's still like that, like racism, white supremacy is like it's just watered down in a different level of systems. Like I mean, think about like how like it come from like straight up slavery to like legally like using things like to oppress people. And the thing is like they created these systems like I mean, from my Adam can like correct me, but like like the caste system would not have existed if it wasn't for like the British putting like the lighter skin people in charge like of like making them like maharajas and stuff. So it's just
I mean, I don't know that all those things are taught in American schools. I mean, you have a very international perspective, and which is awesome. But like, he's exactly right. I don't want to say it, but it is all just the Brits. I mean, the way to tie it back to like Pittsburgh and this conversation, and I want to go back to like kind of like what Mars was saying about how he feels angry and the we feel angry all the time. I mean, if you think about the Black people experience stemming out of slavery, and then the brown people experience stemming out of colonialism, like that's exactly kind of what Natty is speaking toward. It would just like the closest analogy I could come up with would be that, in 1947, when the Brits split India and they partitioned it into Pakistan, India, and what is now Bangladesh, it'd be like, imagine if you live in Homewood and your aunt lives in Larimer. Suddenly the Brits divide it, and those are two separate countries, but you have family on the other side of the border. And that's what happened, because they took Punjab Punjab's a province, but now there's Pakistani Punjab and Indian Punjab. And the Punjabs have the same food, the same music, the same art, the same culture, the same traditions, but now it's two separate Punjabs. And that happened across like all these political boundaries that were drawn by the Brits they never took culture into mind. And so they just divided it. And I mean, if you just draw a straight line, and if you open up a map on Google Maps, you'll see literally the lines drawn through families, tribes, groups of people. And it's even weird for me. I mean, and I'm a generation removed because I was born in Ohio, and I'm just, the joke that like if I talk to my cousins back home in like Burma or what is now like India or Pakistan, like they say that I'm ABCD. And ABCD, I'm sure Natty has heard that term. ABCD is American Born Confused Desi. And a Desi is anybody from the South Indian subcontinent. So you could be any type of brown. India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Burma, Bangladesh, we're all brown. So we're all like brothers and sisters, but the Brits divided us and it's stuck. And it's just kind of this weird historical thing. And then it ties into some of the colorism. But it is interesting because like even like I just moved to Sharpsburg. So I lived in Lawrenceville for 4 years. I moved to Sharpsburg. There's an Indian restaurant in Aspinwall. The family who owns it is Indian, and they live in Sharpsburg. So they go walking by, and I'll say hi to them in Hindi, which is awesome to get to use my like native language. But I don't know if like, do they want me to talk to them? I mean, I'm clearly different because I was born in the States and not abroad. But I just wanted them to know that I'm here, like I'm with them. I if they have questions or need help, like I speak their language. But yeah, man, it's just a really interesting thing that it stems back to history. And sometimes that particular history that Natty discussed isn't always taught in school, that there are people alive today who remember British India, who were alive before 1947. If you're above the age of 72, you were alive before partition. That is amazing. Like we don't have people alive that were enslaved, which, thankfully, I mean, that's a terrible experience. But like we do have people alive who are just the elders that were like, yeah, I remember when I could visit like Ron down the street and it was cool, but now he's in India and I'm in Pakistan.
I think that's the craziest aspect is that we were told that I can tell you Christopher Columbus's fucking ships.
Yep.
But I can't tell you that I've ever heard of any of that. And you talk about, I mean, honestly, from an American perspective, you talk about the way you're talking about dividing up countries, the way with gerrymandering and dividing up districts for political purposes, and not to get, not to devise a conversation into a political matter, but the breaking up of cultures and situations is something that I didn't know extended, I guess, to that level.
Yeah, and this is something that I kind of want to speak to real quick. So, Mars, I actually never asked you this, just out of curiosity, but what part of Pittsburgh are you actually from?
The Hill District.
You're from the Hill? Okay. So, this is actually something that I love reading up on. I love reading up on, like, development in, like, the city in general, because, I love my city. I love reading about stuff, what's going on, what's new, what's all that.
Greg's born and raised Greenfield, if you didn't know, Mars. I can't remember if I told you that or not.
Born and raised Greenfield, yeah. So... And first off, like I am aware of the history with regards to the Hill District, about how it once was a thriving community, and then when the Mellon Arena was built, a lot of that area was essentially kind of taken away, and we got
middle.
Yeah, right in the middle. The one thing that I wanted to point this out too, I'm a big fan of when it used to be on. I was a big fan of Parts Unknown with Anthony Bourdain, and I'm also a fan of United Shades of America with W. Kamau Bell. Great show, by the way.
Second free ad of the night, Greg.
Sorry, just had to. So something that I wanted to speak to, and that's kind of this idea where he was recently in Pittsburgh for an episode, and this was before the George Floyd situation, and he actually kind of talked about how, in terms of being black in Pittsburgh, it's not necessarily as rosy as the national perception of Pittsburgh is. It's the idea that Pittsburgh's the great story of revival in the city and all that, and how we are an example for any Rust Belt city that needs to kind of get back to where it was. But if you really kind of take a micro look at the city too, I mean, especially in predominant African American areas, whether it be the Hill District or Homewood or or the West End even like that, you don't necessarily kind of see the type of revival that you're expecting. And then that speaks to gerrymandering, that speaks to whether it be gentrification or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting to look at it from a perspective of, yes, like I take pride from my city being able to say that we came back compared to where we were. But if you live in it too, there's an entirely different perception of it too. Because if you're not from here, you maybe don't necessarily kind of see the areas that desperately need that type of investment, that need that type of love and support that the rest of the city is getting from there. And I mean, I know that they've talked about the idea of, you know, revitalizing the Hill, and that's been a year-long conversation. I know they're trying their hardest to be able to do that, but it really speaks volumes to the perspective that from your skin color alone, there could be an entirely different perception maybe of how the city of Pittsburgh kind of treats you as that individual too.
Most definitely. Like, think about it like this. Can you guys go back to your high school right now? Like, if you wanted to.
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
high school's still up, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
My high school's not up. It's apartments. You know, Shinley High School is
Yeah.
Shinley Apartments
Yeah.
now.
I remember that.
You know, so it's like, this is the thing that probably hurts me the most about being in Pittsburgh, and it kind of gets me choked up a little bit, is because, like, I can't, if I wanted to raise a family here, if I have kids and, you know, I wanted them to go to the same high school that I went to, that I ran track to, you know, those dreams of being like, yo, I can't wait till I get, you know, they can go to that school. My history's erased, you know, so it's like, not just for my high school, but with a lot of other high schools that predominantly, you know, Black people went to. And even in my high school, I feel like we got sacrificed. We had Black and white and international. We had it all. We were that school for that, you know, and it's not open anymore. So yeah, and especially with sports, when I used to go run and you know, I was really good going to like an invitational at Mount Lebanon, and then just riding buses, and you got all these Black kids, you know, maybe a couple white kids, maybe a couple international kids, predominantly Black, and you're in this neighborhood where you're just like, wow, this is the Mount Lebanon that they be talking about. Like, this is, oh, we here now? Like, oh, we out North Hills? Oh, we out Baldwin?
Yeah.
Mars,
oh, we out Butler?
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like a 180, man. It's crazy.
Like, it's like one of those like shell shock things where it's not that far, but you're like, yo, we're out here. This is what we've been, you know, besides reading the papers and being like, can't wait to play them. Or you get to go to, you know, when I went to Baldwin High School, like Baldwin High School has changed. Baldwin, to me, high school has always been like, yo, you see their high school, bro? Like, it's big.
Like a
like
Coliseum.
Yeah.
every year, and I'm 34, I've seen them add on to what, like, now it's like a mall. It's a mall. You know, they have restaurants and stuff in there. Like, for high school, we didn't have that in high school. It was just like, we had the bare minimum, and we just made it work because people in our community love to see, like, if you win in city schools, it's like, if you win, you know, you get more, you know, like, we didn't have the luxury of like the community or people being like kind of, you know, well off or middle class. Like, to be honest, there's no Black middle class neighborhood in Pittsburgh.
There really isn't.
You know what I'm saying? We used to talk about that. We talk about this all the time. Like, Dad, what would that look like?
Yeah.
Have we ever witnessed that? And it's like,
yeah, Mars, in all seriousness, like, if you kind of think about it, like, every neighborhood that was predominantly Black where you kind of see investment trying to go into it, I mean, what usually happens with it turns white. I mean, that's just how it is. Like, the next, like, East Liberty absolutely got taken over. And then the next one that's probably going to happen is Hazelwood. I mean,
Millville too. They were talking about
Millville too, yeah,
things of that nature.
Well, and I mean that's
Larryville.
That's everywhere. Yeah, that's where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Although that was predominantly white redneck people.
Just to, just to transfer off that, I do have a question specifically for you, Mars, because we were discussing this earlier today. Growing up, I feel like I forget what it was, but there was a comment made, like there's only two ways to make it out, and it's to rap or to go to the league.
Mhm.
You are a rapper in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Like you grew up playing athletics. Is that a legitimate thought growing up as a black person that it's either I'm going to rap or I'm going to make it to the league, which 9 times out of 10 is the NFL or NBA, but like that's you know what I mean? Like me growing up, it's I'm just gonna go to college and get a job and live my life. And you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, is that a legitimate thought?
For a lot of us, like to be honest, for a lot of people, yeah, it is. That's what they got. They have no other way. Through the grace of God, with my mom being a single parent, she always taught us about our education. You can get far with being smart. So she was on us, me and my sister, hard. Like my sister is like I got my degree from Slippery Rock. I did my 5 years, and I said, yes, I did it. Like that's it. I got it, Mom. My sister, she's my younger sister. We both scholars, but she learned from me to go take it further. I always took it further. When you're the firstborn and you do something, you're doing it, but you don't realize that your younger sibling is watching you.
Yeah.
And they're going to take it to they're going to make a way for themselves by taking it to the next notch a little bit. And like, she's got her associates, then got her degree from Point Park, then got her master's. Now she's teaching in the same neighborhood that we grew up in, which is the Hill District. Just got a job for Pittsburgh Public Schools.
Yeah.
Like she's been teaching for about 4 years, and she's finally got the job that she wanted.
Which is hard to get a job in Pittsburgh Public
hard
Schools,
to get. Like,
yeah,
it is hard. When I tell you it is hard to get into Pittsburgh Public Schools as a teacher, or like just to get in there, it is hard, especially for Black women in Pittsburgh, because like the job market for Black women in Pittsburgh has always been shit. Like for guys, like look at it. My name's Mars, but my real name is Marquell. Imagine like my resume going across somebody's desk. The fact that I've been blessed to get jobs, I don't know if they thought, Marquell, that sounds, international or anything. I always thought that. I'm like, yo, I'm getting these jobs. So when I go in there, they're like, wow, he speaks proper. Wow, he's well, duh. Like,
Mars, you're actually blowing my mind right now, because I actually did think your name was Mars, not Marquell. So
yeah,
wait till you hear Natty's full name.
Oh damn!
It's not just Natty.
Some people say Marquell. Like I've always got Marquell, and I'm just like, there's no K in my name. But it's like, even then, like as a Black person, we've learned this thing from when we was enslaved, code switching. We know how to talk. Like it's just all about like hearing certain things, and you're like, I know when to turn it on and I know when to turn it off. I don't know if you ever saw that clip when the Black guy is out down in South, and he's the reporter, and he's like, hey, I'm out here and it's hot, and then the bug flies past, and he's like, oh shit, what the fuck? And his voice changes up, and everybody's like, yo, what the? He's like, man, get me out of this shit. Like it's like that, man. It's like, but coming up in Pittsburgh, like it's when I talk to like people that, lived outside the city kind of, and they come in and they're just like, am I moving too fast? Like, I don't want to disrespect nobody. I'm like, yo, this is your city as well. It is my city. You just lived a couple miles outside. I grew up in the city. It's just like anybody that grew up in New York. If you grew up on the outside of New York and you ain't grew up in the city or the boroughs, you know what I'm saying? You're going to feel a little out of place. Guess what? As a Black man, hey, I've grown. I feel out of place all the time when I go into somewhere. Like, I have to be like, well, I have to get this nervousness feeling out of the way, because this shit is like up here, and I'm just like, okay, how do I adapt? And then people amongst us, we're always talking to each other, and it's like, yeah, you got to adapt, bro. Like when you're on a job and you want to like go hard, and you don't want to be the angry black man or the angry black woman. So you got to figure out like, how can I talk to, my coworkers or things without feeling like, oh, he's got an attitude. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dog, I see this all the time with you guys, but if I do it, it's straight up, yo, and through the grace of God, I've been on my job. It's about to be 6 years. And guess what? Even the job market in Pittsburgh, it took a long time to figure out like, yo, with this guy, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I do good work, but even in that, it's like, I see certain things with how Black people and promotions and different things and certain things.
Give us 1 second here, Mars. It looks like our Zoom chat is lagging a bit. All three of you are just kind of frozen for a second. Once we try to get that resumed, we will join back in. But just so you guys know, it's a different show tonight for people that may have tuned in. Just to give a little recap of the panel we have tonight while we try to get the Zoom meeting back in. It is Mars Jackson, who is, and I can email them all back, Josh, just so you know. Mars Jackson, Pittsburgh rapper, longtime friend of mine for years now. We're trying to get these situations solved, guys. Apologies on that. Let me reply all this email really quick. It kicked.
Yeah, we're just having some technical difficulties, but for anyone who's just tuning in all seriousness, this is probably...
To be honest, I don't know that we're live.
You don't know we're live?
I don't think even we're live. See how this is red down here?
Yeah. So...
I'm trying to find out.
Well, that's not
Yeah,
good.
we're not live.
Damn. Did the power go out, I'm guessing?
Not.
Hey, all right,
Oh,
hang on.
all right.
We're
Sorry
coming
about
back.
that,
We're
guys.
coming back.
Okay. Yeah, I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah, sorry
Didn't
guys.
you know we end the show at 7:37 now?
Yeah, Natty, you watch every week.
Sorry
Come on,
about
man.
that, guys. No,
I
we're
know.
fine. It's I will also say that's like the ugliest pausing screen of all time, so we'll have to deal with
Yeah,
that
we
because
gotta
it's
do
like
something like
a
that.
person looking very frustrated
Now,
with their hands.
I got
on the
green
head.
back here.
So we'll cut back in. Sorry about that, guys.
Good.
That's what Cam texted me. Said he'd be on at 6:30 because he was he was getting fitted for a tux
All right,
today.
we're back live. We're
So,
live.
all right, guys, we are back live. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you, Nika, for texting me. The show did disconnect. We're back on it. Apologies there. So we'll just directly jump right back in. Mars, you probably kept talking for about 2 minutes there. No, it's just a passionate guy, and I know how you are, and I know that any kind of misconnection, you're going to keep chugging along there. Do you want to keep going on your thoughts on that?
Oh no, actually, Natty was
it Natty stepping in? See,
Yeah.
that's how disconnected we were, is that you were still talking when we disconnected.
Literally and
You guys had a whole
figuratively.
conversation without us. Shit.
Yeah,
All right.
well,
yeah.
like, yo,
Fuck,
okay.
my bad.
No, no, I was adding like, when you guys talk about like, I'm gonna say like when you guys talk about like how those areas in Pittsburgh that are like becoming gentrified and like people are moving out, and like I was just thinking of the history of it, how it started with segregation, how it started with like Nixon and his Southern strategy and with his law and order, then Reagan coming in with war on drugs and taking out like black males who are the breadwinners of the household. And that means like people cannot afford those homes, so they have to move out to the suburbs. And now like the same thing is coming back. I don't know if you guys know about opportunity zones. Those are like,
No.
there's go read about opportunity zones. But just to put it, it was the government's way of like, if you go to a place where like they say revitalize, they want to revitalize it, and they give you tax breaks. And this open loopholes to big corporation to come in, especially I have seen it in Washington, D.C. I mean, if you ever been to D.C., U Street, Shaw, like, where Howard University is,
Oh yeah.
that's like the culture, or like, the cultural mecca of I mean, blackness. So like, but when you see people, I don't want to put it in a derogatory term, but like, you would see like, a white girl with her small dog, like, walking around and going to this, like, $3,000, $4,000 per month apartments. And that happened because of opportunity zones and how like this developers get into this and get tax breaks and still like, still do, and then the previous resident gets forced out because rent is now like, $4,000 a month.
That's
And
gentrification at its finest right there, man.
yeah, I mean, they did, like, I would tell you, DC, like, come to DC, and now, like, every, like, if a lot of people, like, told you, like, they're from DC, like, most people, like, like, and sadly this affects a lot in majority Black families, they are living outside of DC. And so it's just I mean, that is like, textbook of how they do it, like, actually making it legalizing, but like, creating loopholes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's just a sad thing to see.
That, just taking it back to Pittsburgh, that is literally exactly what happened in East Liberty. And the EOZ, the Economic Opportunity Zone, is actually divided along Penn Avenue. And it is so stark to stand on Penn Avenue and look at both sides of the street, because it's so obvious. You have one side, and it's like Warby Parker and Mola and Homage and these awesome brands like Bonobos doing their thing. You look at the other side of the street, and it's empty storefronts, and the EOZ is divided such that the developers who have pre-existing capital coming from not the neighborhood, coming from outside the neighborhood, can take advantage of the opportunity zone. It's wild. I hadn't really heard about that till like just a couple of years ago, and I was like, what's happening here? How does this tax credit work? And I kind of like heard from some folks who were more well-read on it than me, and I was like, oh, that's why that side of the street is fully developed and like kind of bougie, and this side isn't. That is literally, there's a line. It's like redlining. It's crazy, man.
Well, and then is it the Target, is this considered essential, right? Because it serves groceries. That's why it's allowed to be there.
And I think Target and Home Depot were in before it. I think Home Depot.
Okay.
Yeah, Home Depot was definitely like one of the first big, I want to say contributors, but it was definitely one of the first big major tenants that kind of like moved into that area to kind of allow all the other ones to come afterwards.
So some of that was honestly probably just random, like throwing a dart at a map and we're going to put it here. But Home Depot, I think, was like 06. Target was like, 2010. So they might have they might have predated it. But if you look at anything 2015 on, now you're talking like huge tax credit and incentive to come and build. And that's like, it's tough because the argument that they'll say is, well, the neighborhood didn't have the money. It's like, like I hear that, but you also never give them a chance to like raise funds or to keep the wealth in the neighborhood. Now it's outside wealth coming in, and it's a different intention.
Well, that's something that speaks volumes to it too, because you're essentially saying that we are just now going to move into this underserved community because we're getting the tax credits to be able to do it. But from the mindset right there, if that's the case, you really should have been there from the start, because from that vantage point right there, if this is an underserved community that needs your services right there, then you shouldn't need a tax credit to be able to move in right there. You should be able to make money just from that alone. But you, essentially, if you're a bigger corporation, you're kind of looking at it from the perspective of, I will not move in unless there's some sort of investment that's put into it. I will not move in unless there's other like-minded companies that are going in with me to take that chance on it. And it's very discouraging to look at it from there, too.
And Adam, you're so ingrained in the community. An honest to God question. The only thing I know to do to impact is to vote. To vote for president, to vote for local congressmen. I'm a huge proponent of local, like extremely local to the point of your mayor voting, because those types of people, the representatives in your district, are the people that are legitimately making decisions for your day-to-day, like the governor and things like that. But you talk about these opportunity zones on Penn, and even situations which obviously is different than this, but the bike lanes and things like that. How do I get involved past just voting in those types of situations? Because I don't, like, aside from Googling and asking around, like, this is the first time I've even thought about how to.
Yeah, I get frustrated and really depressed, like what Mars was saying earlier, when I look at like the high level, like the more national level. But at the local level, man, we're so lucky because Pittsburgh is represented by some awesome people at the state level in Harrisburg, by people like Sarah Inmorado and Summer Lee, who are women and people of color and very progressive. follow them on social, man. Like if you don't already, follow them on Twitter, follow them on Facebook, get to know them. If like before the pandemic, you could walk down Butler Street and Sarah would grab a beer at Hambones or at New Am and was always down to chat. She would get coffee at Cafe de More in Upper Lawrenceville, and she would usually grab a drink in the evening up closer to like, like Central Lawrenceville. She's super approachable. It's her job, right, is to represent us. Like that's what gives me hope, is like that, like I don't see the same things happening in my hometown back home in Ohio, that I don't think they're represented by such progressive people at the local level, and it's just a different culture. But like, man, that's what I would say, is because like after living in Lawrenceville, and it's funny because somebody earlier talked about gerrymandering, and it's really funny that, again, Butler Street is another area that is actually gerrymandered. The side of the street, I lived at 4417 Butler, so I lived right above New Am, and we had a different state rep than across the street. And I had in my window, it's like crazy, and I didn't know that till I like registered and read up, and I was like, man, I can't wait to vote for Sarah this November. And then I went to vote, and they're like, you're actually in this district. And I was like, wait, what? Like, how does that even work?
What if I go stand over there? Am I in that fucking district? Like, what? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
It's just the way it's gerrymandered.
That's why it's a huge problem, man.
Sarah and I were talking, and my window, my bedroom window faced Butler Street. So she was like, hey, man, she was like, you have a very high visibility window. Would you rock my poster? I was like, absolutely, no problem. And I can't wait to vote for you. But I couldn't do that because I wasn't in the district. But now that I've moved to Sharpsburg, she represents Sharpsburg, Etna, parts of Millvale, Shaler, and half of Butler Street. So like just thinking about that and like understanding, who your state rep is and all of that is pretty impactful. And sorry, I cut you off, Natty, but like I was
no, you're good. Yeah, you're hitting the nail, because I was actually wanted to add, like, your school council. Huge. That is like your school council and like your city council. Those are the people that run everything every day. And even in DC, like, they have like quadrants. So like Northwest DC, you see like, and you would see someone you actually like, have to vote in your, like, in your quadrant. So it's like you just researching about things. And I know it's like, like sometimes like you hear about these things and you want to do something because just more than a vote, or like, I think it's just like what you guys doing right now is big, because it can reach a lot of audiences. Like talking to people, like, it's just not being afraid to tackle the conversation is a big thing too. So, but yeah, local elections are super important.
Yeah, and Natty, I want to bring this up too with regards to local elections. This is kind of something with regards to somewhat similar to the story I told earlier, but it's very shortened. So I was in Somerset, PA this past weekend visiting a college friend of mine. Somerset, PA, for people who don't know, is about an hour and 15 minutes east of Pittsburgh. You get on the turnpike, you drive right there.
Seven Springs.
Yeah, Seven Springs, basically. And this is coal country. This is like 100% coal country. This was their biggest industry. That's where a lot of their money came from. So when I bring up coal country, from a national perspective, there's one man who really pushes it to say, I'm going to bring back coal. Now, from essentially that town's perspective, that's something that gravitates to them, because they're looking at it from, that's the industry that got us all this, got us our wealth. That's the industry where, my grandparents and my parents were able to build a life for myself and something like that, to the point now where if I drive along one of the main streets in that community, there's a sign that says that person's name is for coal. And that's just kind of something, that's a message that you're gravitating to. It is very hard for one person, especially from a national perspective, to be able to bring back an entire industry right there, especially an industry where, if you look at it from the actual data perspective, it's probably the fourth or fifth largest energy supplier in the world right now. There's been so much advances when it comes to modern technology and what's required to be able to power this right now, to the point where if you're going to make a promise that you're going to bring back an entire industry that's just lagged behind for so long, I mean, you're speaking to a specific base to be able to get it up right there, but in terms of a national perspective, man, like that's just really difficult to do. So that's where the local aspect comes from. In if you have a local individual that maybe is trying to say, hey, I'll do my best to be able to bring opportunities back to this area, bring this opportunity back to this region, that's one thing. But from a national perspective, saying I'm going to bring back an industry that has just gone to the way, not necessarily to the wayside, but it's just lagged behind for so long compared to what it is now. That's where the disconnection kind of essentially comes from, especially in this country overall. Like, we're lucky enough to be in a metropolitan area where we have like a conglomerate of all these different ideas and all these different concepts to be able to kind of discuss about and be able to, share our knowledge with. But from an area where essentially your entire upbringing was built around one specific thing, and that's not necessarily what is in the future of this country anymore, you're going to gravitate towards any type of, whether it be political or whether it be any type of message whatsoever, to, bring it back and give us the wealth that we once had. You're going to go towards that. Whereas in terms of the country now moving forward, that's not going to be something that you're going to see.
Just to add in as well for you guys, my mother, Mars, I believe you've met my mother before.
Yep.
Natty, I know you've commented along with my mother. And Adam, my mother would just adore you because of your brain and your awesomeness. She writes it before the shuts down, and I missed my chance. I want to thank you guys for doing this. I have so much to learn from you, and I'm so sorry for your pain. Thank you for the bravery to join the conversation. I hope you do it again. So I just wanted to get that comment in. And Jtronics, 19 black-owned banks in the U.S., 44% of black families own their homes versus 73% whites. Just some statistics that absolutely make sense and speak levels to this, because, Adam, you were talking about the breweries owned. I mean, there's 19 owned black banks in the U.S. is something that I would call bullshit on if someone brought that up out of context. That's I mean, how many breweries or did you say it was, Adam? I don't know if you have the number still top of mind.
There's like out of 6,000, less than 50 are black owned. Wow. So it's a pretty white industry, and here in Pittsburgh, we're very lucky to have Fresh Fest. But like just last week, I got an email from a Philadelphia-based beer blog that they were like, "Hey man, we're looking to do a story on black-owned breweries in Pittsburgh," and it was a hard email to write back to be like, "Hey man, we actually don't have any." And we have none. We have some women-owned, which is dope. But we do have a couple of women-owned breweries, and you can talk to them. Yeah. But we are 100% like homogeneously white-owned in that industry, and we have a little bit of like ways to go.
I will. So 8 minutes left on the show, guys, and just for sake of time, I want to give each of you just a platform to say or to add or whatever it is you want to end off the conversation, or a challenge for us. I know, Natty, you've been giving us a few, challenging us to read, challenging us to learn. Adam, you've given me a lot to think about in terms of just local things we can do. And then Mars, every day, you challenge me to be a little bit better. So I'm going to give you guys the last 10 minutes here. I don't know who wants to go first or second, or if you want to collaborate, whatever it is, but just to speak your mind on the issue, because that was the whole point of this experiment here.
Real quick, like what you just brought up, that educated me, thinking outside the box, like, wow, like didn't even think about, somebody saying they're going to bring something back to a place that's like, that's what we made our
right
off of. This is our community. When I think about, I'm like, wow, you know what? That makes sense. Like it does make sense why somebody be like, this is why I'm doing whatever, voting for whoever, because of this person saying, this is what I'm trying to do. And if you can't do that on the net, like we know on the national, I told people this is the future now. We're in a different,
right.
It's not going back where we thought
It's very hard to say that I'm going to bring back something that is essentially prehistoric. And I don't want to say prehistoric, but compared to the advances in technology or society in general, I mean, it's just not something that we can bring back anymore, because trying to push that whole agenda now, it just does not work. So you're essentially trying to feed off of the emotional attachment right there. That's where you get the support that it comes from. So that's kind of where you build your base right there. Yeah. So that's kind of how it speaks right there. And it is an entirely different perspective right there, because that's something that really kind of opened my mind to it, where you have this entire community that's relying on an individual from a national perspective to bring something back to them. Whereas instead of a national individual, you should really kind of focus on what is it from the local perspective that I could do? What is it that my local representative has been doing for me lately to help the area that I live in, instead of relying on someone to service an entire country to be able to do that, which is just, it's not feasible. It's really not.
Y'all have challenged me tonight to definitely, even Adam, like, and Natty, like, I'm emotionally attached to this city because I just feel, but actually being able, and I follow Summer Lee and a lot of the other people, and just getting
Summer Lee was also on the United Shades of America episode, which, by the way, great episode, must point out.
So to even, whether I'm a rapper, because people be like, oh, they equate rapper and they equate activist. And I try to tell people I'm not an activist. I don't even want to take that title on, because like I don't want to misconstrue or anything like that. I'm just a regular dude from Pittsburgh that like loves this city. I've been raised, I was raised here, and I was born in New York. My birth certificate says New York, but my grandma's from here, and I was raised here, and I love this city. And I just want to, at this age, just get my hands dirty and do my part. So whether it's just, sometimes I go back and forth about like, I got social media and I'm out here, I'm outside and stuff like that, but to actually know who's on the state council, who's on this, who's doing that, is way beneficial for me. So I thank you guys for like that information and everything, and seeing stuff from a different perspective and understanding, because that's what it's all about. I don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I know everybody doesn't know everything, but this is the beauty of fellowship and trying to understand. So definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't mind going next. I'll try to be quick. I would say just like 2 or 3 quick things. So one would be, I appreciate people keeping me accountable. I think like accountability is interesting because like I think about this a lot, both as like Adam and like just who I am. And I love Pittsburgh, and I had no idea, Mars, that you went to Shenley and that you ran there. And there's an attachment there that you can't have that. And I've literally never decoupled that in my mind, that I can just walk back to Ohio, to my high school, see the track that I ran on. I ran as well. But I think accountability, keeping the media accountable. I mean, just as somebody who does food and beverage and lifestyle media, I don't try. Our mission, so the website that I run is verylocal.com. So if you click on verylocal.com, you'll see New Orleans and Pittsburgh. And I run the Pittsburgh site. Obviously, I'm here. But our mission is food and beverage, arts and culture, and events, because our parent company, which is WTAE, they do news. So they handle news, sports, weather, crime, all the stuff that you would equate with news, and just like keep us accountable, because we make mistakes and we're not perfect. And I appreciate when we can be called out, or at least pushed to be better. That's both as Adam and as, I guess, my day job. But the other thing, going back to what like Derek and you guys and I'm just seeing it in like quadrants, but on the lower right side of my screen, and you were talking about Somerset and coal country and some of that, and some of that shit super hits close to home, because the first job I got out of grad school was I was contracting for this project that was funded by the Obama administration, and it was super interesting because for everything that they did, both right and wrong, like he did a lot of stuff super well. This was super thoughtful that when Obama earmarked funding to create this program to do like workforce development, his thought was like, all right, if you're a coal miner or a factory worker or anything that your job could be lost to automation or technology, you are going to be out of a job, and a good paying job, to like raise a family and to keep a city or a town or a culture alive. So he created this program that was entirely like to retrain workers in factories who were doing manual labor, who were they were just fighting the clock to be outsourced either to outside labor or to automation, to retrain them into things like 3D printing and photonics and different things that were the manufacturing of the future. And it was so like well-intentioned and well thought through, because he was like, all right, and we will take funding from the military, and then we'll combine it with funding from the private sector. So the whole premise of it was like, let's say you're GE or you're Boeing or you're Honda or anybody. Well, if you donate a little bit of money to this fund, then the military will match it, and any intellectual property that comes out of it will be shared, so that these companies could take funding to create these opportunities to retrain workers in like Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, Western PA. It was brilliant. And
which are all areas that were hit very hard, by the way, with regards to losing population and also losing businesses in general, by the way, too.
Yeah, totally, man. And it's something that I was super passionate about, and I was like all about helping with that. I just ran their social, but yeah, man, like I think about that a lot, because with the change in administration and with the change in the way we think about where we want to put funding so that the future like works, I don't know that we've really thought about it fully like we did then. And and now it's like the way that it's manifested is in anger and in fear and in the way people are now voting. And we're seeing counties flip that voted Obama that then flipped Trump, right? We saw 6,000 people in Mahoning County in Youngstown, Ohio, change affiliation just so they could vote for Trump in the primary. That was so stark, because that's one county from where I grew up. And my county went, I think, like Obama, Trump, like 08, 012, 16. And it was so interesting to see that, because like the number one employer where I'm from is a steel mill. It's where my dad worked. That's how he came to this country. And like that affects them. And they maybe don't know this, or that they haven't thought it through to like the future. But the way that we can keep these towns going will be to retrain them through workforce development. And it's something I'm passionate about. I don't even have all the answers, but like when you mentioned Somerset and coal, and if Trump says, I'm going to bring back coal, that's actually not the right way to approach it. The right way to approach it is to retrain such
what's
that
next.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the question that Natty's, I mean, it's what's next.
And Natty, before you go real quick, Adam, I know exactly what you mean, because like I've read about Youngstown and kind of the plight that has gone on with there too. Like I know about how they've tried for so long to be able to bring back some sort of industry to be able to kind of help that area too. I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, they I believe gave tax credits to some company that was trying to create a self-cooling beverage can or something like that. I remember. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there's an entire article that I remember reading about how, you know, they gave all these tax credits to this organization, and how they were going to add jobs to the city that desperately needs it, by the way, and they still have not like built a plant to be able to actually house the workers or start production on it. So there's a lot of, even though it's politics right there, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot that has to go into it to be able to kind of get the capabilities to be able to bring not only well-paid jobs back to a community, but also being able to bring back organizations that just aren't going to essentially skip out on using those credits to be able to kind of, you know, go and win their pockets right there, to be able to actually bring a product to the market and use that money to be able to reinvest it right there. So it's a long way to be able to figure that out. And the fact that you were part of an organization that was being willing to actually create new jobs and retrain the individuals that used it to use their skills for another type of skill is amazing. Or another industry, I apologize right there. Yeah.
No, you're good, dude. Yeah, to tie it all back to this conversation, the part of it that I grapple with in my mind the most is that, as just like a brown person, that this whole incentive or this whole purpose was to help people who are now voting Trump. And it's really odd to think that it was so well intentioned under the Obama administration to retrain workers to keep them, you know, in their communities and active and earning a decent income.
And advance the economy and advance everything. I mean, 3D printing is what you just mentioned, Adam. And that's, I mean, it's the future of everything, right? It's the future of cast and cars.
Totally, man. Yeah, I remember it was amazing the day that I got to like tweet about how they did the first ever 3D printed wrench in orbit in like no gravity, so that they could like email parts to space and have the astronauts 3D print their parts, so they didn't have to use rocket fuel to ship it up. Like this is like amazing shit that we came up with, because like we're America. We have some stuff that is like super like actually exceptional, like our technology. And then like when you had what happened in 2016 with the election, it all went to shit. And it's tough because like I still see good in people and like want to help them, but I don't think that they would ever want to like help me back. And that's what's tough. And I don't know what the answer is, but like the hope is that like with this next generation coming up, we can get these issues back.
Adam, I think part of it too is also the idea that I think change in general just scares people. And I think maybe that might have been kind of the reasoning for it, because you're looking at it from the perspective of if one individual says that you're going to bring back an entire industry that, you know, they were familiar with and that they grew up with, it's kind of the idea that I don't need to learn this new skill. I don't need to learn about this new, you know, market that's going to eventually take over my position. Instead, we're going to keep what I currently have where I don't have to do that and I'm comfortable. And that speaks back to the idea where being comfortable isn't necessarily the greatest thing. Getting uncomfortable forces you to have to learn. It forces you to have to adapt. It forces you to have to be able to think outside the box and learn about an entirely different skill whatsoever to be able to sustain the life that you have right there. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at very harshly right there.
It's also like, you know, piggybacking on that, it's also insulting to these people that when you tell them you can bring coal, like it's really is like, you know, I mean, Adam like did like, you know, a very good point. One of the guys like I really wanted to be nominated was Andrew Yang, and he did Venture for America, which is the same thing you just talked about, like, you know, how like they actually send like, you know, kids to this like, you know, Detroit, Baltimore, like, you know, Washington D.C. in this areas, Cleveland, where they are really hurting, and usually like, you know, those companies start like, you know, startups start there and try to like, you know, open like, you know, and hire people from the like, you know, the areas, but get like, you know, the best and brightest students, get there and like, you know, create an industry from the ground up. And like a lot of his policies I've seen like, you know, but also we've seen what happened to 2016 and like, you know, now too, but a lot of people didn't pay attention. That would have been a really, really great continuation of things. But like, to the question Derek was asking earlier on, like, you know, what we can do. Like for me, like, you know, I always found it like, you know, to start with your neighbor. Like I call it to start with your neighbor. Like, I don't know, like, you know, in this like, you know, I think this would go for everyone, but specifically to Dig, you know, like, you know, and Josh, and for you guys, like, you know, I think it's good to like, you know, help like, you know, a younger black or a black man or women, like, you know, that you see, like you can, I think, reach out to Big Brother, Big Sister, like organization, the local, and teach them what, like, because you guys are college graduates, and like there are people that don't have that opportunity like you guys had. So if you can, like, you know, just like, you know, reach out to like, you know, those programs and be a big brother and like, you know, see how like, you know, you can meet, I think, like, you know, once a week or twice a week, but like, you know, that creates like one, like, I mean, you definitely were going to benefit from their experiences being a young black man, like, you know, probably they will be in high school, I think, or middle school, but like they also experience like, you know, taking them to places that like, you know, that they would not have naturally would have been gone. I do it like, you know, like before when I work with like, you know, like in corporate, what I did was like, you know, reaching out to like, you know, a lot of like the people that report to me, like, you know, and some of them are like, you know, college students. So what I did was like, you know, just if they need like, you know, if they need tutoring or if they need like, you know, if someone in there, like it's just being like, you know, a bouncing board for ideas, like, because I made a lot of mistakes up to this point. You don't have to make those mistakes because, like, hey, like, do this at this time. And timing is very important in young man's life, like, because sometimes, like, I mean, we all have those moments, like, shit, I wish I have done this at this time, like we think about that. But now, like, we can pass those lessons to those kids, and I think that is, like, and I really do believe, like, one person can make a change, and that could have a ripple effect. And I mean, those are the things I would see you guys, like, maybe, like, and it's very uncomfortable. Like, trust me, the first time I reached out to someone local here, it was just like, like, we look alike and we're the same, but it's still like, like, I'm an old, like, I'm in my early 30s, reaching out to, like, a middle school, high school. It's like, the mentality of people is like this day. There are a lot of creepy people out there. So it's just like, you're gonna be, like, they're trying to, their families will be trying to protect them. But at the same time, if as long as it comes from a point of, like, good, and you want to help them, like, get to the next level, I think it would be a great start.
Just to read one comment, there's a quote that we'll finish the show on. It's from Jaytronics. He says, "If people can't imagine a future state that is significantly better than what they experience today, it's nearly impossible to get them to change." By Charlie Fields. We'll shut it down on that, guys. Again, I want to use, what little platform we have created in 2.5 years on Thoughts of the Bench to expand conversations. I don't know if that'll be on Two Beers Deep. I don't know if that'll be on any of our set shows. Maybe it's something that spawns out of this that is brand new. Maybe it's, just something that happens. Mm-hmm. But Adam, Natty, Mars, thank you guys, one, for joining us today and giving us your stories and explaining to us, your thought process through the same things we're seeing, but through the lens that we need to see it from. And at the same time, thank you guys for being in my life. I mean, you obviously are three people that I think extremely highly of. So are the people that I've asked that were unable to join. But in a class of people that I legitimately consider intellectual humans that I just enjoy not just being around, but telling people that I can be around you guys. So I love you guys, and thank you. And then thank you to Greg and Josh for, obviously subsidizing what we have been working for in sports, quote unquote, to be able to have this conversation. So thank you to you two. Thank you to the three of you. And thank you to everybody that we reached out to that said they can't tonight, but would more than happy to carry that conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think all three of you brought something different to the table in challenge form. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. So thank you very much. And we love you guys, and thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We will be doing more of this on Thoughts of the Bench. Again, I don't know under which umbrella of podcaster content we'll be doing it, but we will keep the conversation going. There's not much more to say other than, again, thank you guys. We will continue to try our best and be allies. And just if there's anything, like I think it was Natty said, I can't believe it was Natty or Adam said to call people out, to keep you accountable. And I do want to be held accountable. I think we all want to be held accountable, because that is how, you progress. So, again, thank you guys for sharing with us, for communicating with us, for having an open discussion, for telling us your stories and everything. And hopefully we can do this again and bring you guys back on, because I don't know. I don't want to speak for Josh and Greg, but I would think that, obviously we love the three of you, and thank you very much for being on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Yeah, appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Guys, we will be back with Two Beers Deep next Thursday. Full slate of shows coming up from Thoughts on the Bench, and we will find a way to progressively continue this conversation, whether it be a new show, new platform, whatever it is, and we promise to keep the conversation going. So thank you for everybody that watched, the viewers the entire time, commenters, everybody, Chip, Nico, Mom, Vo that commented in, Jaytronics that's there, Meech. But thank you guys for being on, and thank you very much for just being in our lives.
Yeah, that quote was one of the best ways to end the show, so we appreciate that.
Say goodnight, Derek.
See ya.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys.